Special action meeting of March 14th is called to order at 7:30 p.m. New Jersey open, could I have roll call, please?
Mr. Banta?
Here.
Dr. Cohen? Here. Mrs. Franco? Here. Ms. Quackenbush? Here. Mr. Rosenberg?
I'm here.
Mr. Santana?
Ready.
Mr. Spindell?
Present.
Mrs. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Here. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Fair Lawn Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof distributed to the persons on the approved list, posted in the Board of Education Administrative Office, and sent to the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger. The announcement posting for this special action meeting, along with the date, place, and time thereof, was distributed on February 7, 2019. The items to be discussed during the closed work session, if needed, we will have a closed session, of the March 14, 2019 special action meeting may include personnel matters, student matters, legal matters, negotiations, and/or grievances, and tactics and techniques utilized in protecting public safety and property. The results of these discussions will be made public as soon as possible. Can you please join me in flag salute? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to open up to public comments on any the agenda items. This is the budget, which is what we're doing tonight. So is anybody?
We just got this 3 minutes ago.
Well, read fast.
That's the only public comment for the night?
No.
Okay.
We're just following our routine where we are, so we'll come back, read it a little bit. Does any board comments on the agenda items?
We're going to be taking a vote tonight on the budget or not at this time?
We're going to be taking a vote at some point, so
So do you want me to talk on that now or later?
we're talking right now.
I don't know what's proper.
Well, it would, I think, make more sense to talk about it after the presentation.
Yeah, let's wait for the presentation.
Okay.
Got any questions? All right. I guess we'll come back to this. All right.
Budget update?
Okay, yes, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to Brooke to do her budget presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ron. The budget overview looks very similar to the last time that we met. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to hit the key points. So on slide number 2, what we've added is we've updated our state aid. What we know with our impact in terms of what it now looks like with our state aid and our rateable is updated. The maximum allowable is $20.06 a month. On page 4, what we know about the budget, this is our recommended budget and the additional items that were added the last time we met on the 4th, and it brings us to our recommended minimum budget to $15.98. Our expenses have been updated, and the biggest change is basically our state aid. We did receive additional state aid. We've also updated our rateable, so you'll see the average assessed home value has increased by $1,800 here in Fairlawn.
Okay. We'll open up to the boards. Anybody have board comments?
Yes,
Maybe I can just also state the motion that you're going to see, the motions that you'll see under the finance section are required motions. These are motions that the state of New Jersey requires us within the timeline. So you'll see maximum professional services and our travel expenditures. Those are all requirements of what the state requires us to pass a resolution on.
I just wanted to make some comments. I want to thank all those who were involved in the budget process. I know it's a very arduous task when compiling all the information from all the individuals. But there are certain items in this budget that I really cannot vote for at this time. And if they are left in the budget, I am going to not be voting in the affirmative. The first one is the centralized supply initiative for the hiring, whether it be a consultant, whether it be a staff member or what. I am not going to feel comfortable supporting that particular item. I don't know if we're going to be receiving $95,000 worth of services or if we're going to be receiving more. It's really, at this point, impossible to really state whether we are or not. The other thing is for the security cameras. We now have analog as well as digital in our schools. As far as I know, they are all functional. We do not have to worry about not being able to view them on the cameras, according to what I've heard in the past. And therefore, I'm not going to feel comfortable voting for that. And in regard to the school buses, I am not sure at this time the need for those. I'm not sure whether the amount of school buses that have reached their 15-year life expectancy warrant purchasing additional ones, or if we have sufficient ones that are not being used all the time, they're just parked, whether or not they could be used for that same purpose. And the last thing was the addition of the one-on-one initiative to include grade 10. I would prefer just piloting the grade 9, seeing what the flaws are or seeing how we can improve, and go with it in that way.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
So there is, since the last budget meeting, we did include grade 10 for the one-to-one rollout in this PowerPoint, and the rationale wasn't just an arbitrary, let's add grade 10 to it. When we did an analysis of our 9th grade courses, there's probably about 150 sections of 9th grade courses that have an overlap of 10th grade students in it. So in order for us to roll out 9th grade one-to-one devices, the 10th grade students that are in there, if it's a mixed class, wouldn't be using the devices as well. So we didn't want to put our students in that situation where we said nobody uses a device, or you use a device, but you can't because you're in 10th grade. So we did a further analysis, and we felt that it would benefit our students. We could roll out both grades at the same exact time. Our technology staff can handle it. Our building administration can handle it. We had several meetings throughout the last week, so that's why that's added in there. So for us to just roll it out in 9th grade, there'd be students in the class not even using devices, so you would have split classes. So I just want you to know the rationale on it.
Can I just ask you if
Sure.
10th graders are affected by a rollout of 11th graders? Doesn't it go from one grade to the other grade to the other? So you're always going to have that discrepancy.
We looked at that too. We rolled out the data for that. It wouldn't be as much of an impact. It would actually be a lot less. And we said if we got to that point, administration, we have a plan to address that.
I hear your rationale. I'm still not.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mike?
All right, a couple of things. First of all, I'm in favor of the buses because as fast as we could get all of our 54 passenger buses with 3-point restraints in them, I think the safety of our children come first. And first and foremost, I get that we're getting them early, but I would have rather we be able to retrofit all our buses like we had planned. And since we can't because people aren't retrofitting buses, I think it's prudent on us after that tragedy last year. And I'm not a reactive person usually when it comes to stuff happening and reacting to it and overblowing it. But the truth of the matter is there should have been cameras in all our buses to begin with, and all school buses should have 3-point restraints because we have 3-point restraints in our cars and that are required to be used. So how we don't have them for school buses up to this point,
Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a tragedy to wake everybody up. As far as the security cameras, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I'm sketchy at the data. If it's a digital camera, our digital cameras, aren't they, the digital cameras, accessible to the police where the analog cameras aren't, like to the police all the time where the analog cameras aren't?
I believe so.
I'm almost positive that's the difference, and there's a reason.
There's several differences. I mean, you have analog cameras that are more antiquated. What you see on an analog camera to a digital camera is significantly different. I know this from looking at them. To say if I had to see a picture of Mike in an analog and a picture of Mike in a digital, I would be able to spot Mike a lot clearer in a digital camera. When it comes to school security, that's very important. The digital cameras are cloud-based. It does not take as much storage up, as well as you're not using two servers anymore. It's just, and it's in line with our technology audit that we did of the district, and that was one of the recommendations. So.
And the centralized supply initiative, I am for centralizing the supplies and having someone look at it. I don't really think that we need to add $95,000 to the budget to do that, but if it works, I mean, it's 31 cents a month, which is, by the way, I want to go on record of saying that I would much rather we talk about yearly increases rather than monthly increases, because I always have to do the math, and we're really talking about a yearly budget increase, so I don't know why we do that. But, and it was done way before you came, unfortunately, with that. But, so if we're talking about 31 cents for that position this year, we're talking about literally $1.50 tax increase. So I'm not a math teacher. I know it is $1.50. What's 31 times 12? Anyone?
$3.60, something like that.
$4.60,
yeah.
I can live with that. I can live with that if I like the rest of the budget, which I do. I can live with that, because I'm not always going to get everything I want. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to say that I wish that we wouldn't say, I know we're buying buses, but I wish that we would call the category vehicles and not buses, because there's a it's a misnomer to say buses all the time when we're really talking about a category that includes all of the vehicles. And I also wanted to say I'm happy to see the upgrade to the digital cameras, because the analog cameras are old, and I know, you listened when we spoke and we put all the analog cameras in the same school, like, so there wasn't the mix and the whole 9 yards, and for $12 a year to be able to have the digital, which goes right to the police station. There's so many factors that you don't even want to discuss in public because it's security, but I definitely am happy to see that. And and again, the centralized supply initiative, again, that line number 4 is also including the purchase of software. So it's not $95,000 because a person's going to be watching. I mean, there's software involved in that as well. So I think that should just be noted, that it's not, you're not hiring someone for $100,000 a year to monitor your purchasing. You're actually buying a software package that will be monitored by a person at much less dollar amount. So.
Emily.
I have a question for Paul and then a comment to make. So I just want to make sure I'm perfectly clear, Paul, that if we don't approve this budget tonight as a board, then we won't be able to submit it to the county tomorrow. And then what? What's the sanction that happens if we don't meet that deadline?
I think we have a little bit of time left. Tomorrow's the deadline, right?
Well, it's the 20th by statute.
Right.
Statute's the 20th.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have to have another special meeting sometime between now and the 20th to come up with the budget. If you don't, then the state can essentially sanction you. I mean, they can reduce state aid. I mean, that is a threat. I mean, they don't typically do that, frankly, but it is a possibility. They can certainly, hit you under CUSAC, with demerits for that. That maybe they can affect the performance rating of the district.
Okay,
Essentially.
okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and read my comments. All right. All right, it is with heavy heart that I make these comments. In these remarks, I will explain why I plan to vote no to item F8A regarding the 2019-20 budget. Within the past 2 years, residents of Fairlawn who live in the average assessed home of approximately $330,000 have seen their tax bills increase by $720. I want to repeat, taxes for residents in the average assessed home have increased by $720 within just the past 2 years alone. This year's proposed budget will push this cumulative increase to nearly $1,000. Keep in mind that this nearly $1,000 increase in just 3 years will be from the Board of Education alone. It does not include other governing bodies that also could increase property taxes beyond this amount. From my perspective, we are at the point where this cumulative increase is just too much, too quickly for our community. Please know that I have asked administration many questions since our budget work session early last week to understand what exactly the proposed tax increase for this year will cover and why increased revenues cannot offset more of these costs. Yes, we have a $7 monthly increase on the average assessed home this year per month to cover the middle school expansion for residents in such homes, but we have additional revenues as well. 2 years in a row of increased state aid in response, largely in response to our growing enrollment, new properties in Fairlawn that bring in additional tax dollars, better than expected interest rates, better than expected healthcare costs, and yes, some decisions that could be made to slow the rate of cost increases in various budget categories. I know our administration has worked hard on formulating this budget, but I also have faith that they are savvy enough to reduce this year's tax increase further if we as a board require this of them. I also believe that it is time for us as a board to have deeper, more regular, more critical, and more urgent discussions on how to slow the rate of tax increases each year while planfully maintaining progress for our schools and programs. I also believe that we need to have more of these discussions beyond closed committee meetings. We should be talking about these issues regularly as a team and ideally in concert with an engaged public. Last year around this time, I spoke on the importance of the boards looking into ways to avoid large tax increases in the future. I stressed the importance of strategies to cultivate additional revenue sources, such as grants, and to examine options for cost containment. I hope that my vote of no on this year's budget, and perhaps additional no votes from other members of the board, will provide a clear signal on just how strong our feelings are about these issues and about our responsibility as a board to direct the administration to address these issues more forcefully over this next year and beyond. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. This decision has taken a lot of time, soul searching also, and educating myself, being that I'm the newest member of the board. In response to what some of what my gentleman on the left, Mark, what you stated here, I think the centralized supply initiative will actually save money, and that's why I was the proponent of considering this, and the board agreed to bring this for this meeting because it will save money. When you have several people putting orders in a district, the odds of spending more money than what ideally should be required, it's high. And if you centralize it at the recommendation of the business administrator, we're going to save money. And it's better to have one centralized supply and personnel than having a whole bunch of people placing many orders. So I see a potential saving, and I would like the administration to consider keeping track of the potential cost saving that this position will bring. In regards to the safety items hereby listed, I cannot not support this. And I also agree with with you, Michael. I don't know how in this day and age our buses don't have the 3-point belts and not have cameras. It should have been have them, you know. But those things cost money. I appreciate the administration, Ms. Barley, for making the time to for me to learn more about the budget prior to this meeting. It takes a lot of time to learn this huge operation that we are running, over $100 million budget. So I would like to thank the administration for all your hard work in crafting the budget. We appreciate your hard work. The taxpayers of Fairlawn approximately they're paid 63 cents for every dollar in property taxes they pay for, to support our public schools. 63 cents. So we have to do whatever we can to minimize the impact on the residents of Fairlawn, which include many seniors who may not qualify for the tax freeze, single parents, and empty nesters. There's a lot of blue-collar working class people in this town that some of us may not be aware of. And I am a voice for a lot of them, and I'm sure you are too a voice for a lot of them. While I'm happy to support our children, although I'm going to say a few things right after that. I'm happy to support children in what they need and make sure safety is not compromised. Because you know, if we have a recommendation by the people that we hired to run our schools, we have to trust our professionals. However, we have to trust, but like President Ronald Reagan said, we have to verify. That is our duty as a board. We must support our children to keep the quality, but I call on my fellow board members to watch the money, especially in the next year, especially in the next 3 years. We are responsible and must provide funds to address potential, and I will categorize it as very likely staffing needs as a result of the referendum and the financial audit. We can't ask the Fairlawn taxpayers for $200 every year in tax increase. We can't ask the Fairlawn taxpayers for $300 tax increase. We must be reasonable when appropriate, and at the same time, watch every penny. Our children deserve the best education we can afford. This is why we need to look outside the box and keep the dollar in the classroom and look for savings, I believe, through attrition, to retirement, or any other means that we can find without compromising the quality that we already have in the district. If we can keep the quality that we have in the district and save $1 or $2, that is great. What stops us from doing another referendum? Many families in Fairlawn cannot afford another referendum. Many are one referendum away for not being able to afford the prescription drugs. So think about it. We have to look at different options. We have to look at difficult options. We're going to have to make some difficult decisions this year or maybe next year. But we have to be willing to think about the taxpayers who are footing the bill. I ask that we work together to keep the quality, and we watch the money, because our homes are not ATM machines. Thank you.
Mary.
Briefly, I would like to say that I support this budget. I thank the administration for bringing in a budget. And I look at the $15 a month that I'm going to be paying more as an investment in my future. The children we train today will be taking care of me in that nursing home one day. They will be taking care of my roof, my plumbing and electricity. They will be taking care of the issues that I will face as I rapidly grow older. They are the future, and I will be happy to forego 3/4 of a pizza once a month in order to pay these taxes.
Gene,
Yeah,
That's fine.
I just want to make clear that everybody at this table cares about the taxpayer, all right? The implication that we don't, and maybe I'm taking it the wrong way, is completely off base. This administration and this board takes a lot of time in what we do, and we look at the numbers, we look at the staffing, we look at the buildings, and we do what we believe is best for everybody in the district, the students, the taxpayers, all of the residents. So, $15 a month. It's a lot of money to some people, it's not a lot of money to other people. I understand that. I understand if you're on a fixed income, an extra $200 a year can mean a lot. I also know that for 30 years, long before, 40 years, long before I got on this board, boards of education, administrations were doing the same thing. And it shows by the results. These are great schools. We have stable tax base, no matter how you look at it. Our cost per pupil is in the middle of Bergen County. Our results are at the top. The fact that we're growing by 100 some odd students every year, the fact that the real estate market in Fairlawn, it's coming down a little bit now, but it was on fire for 2 or 3 years, shows that people are moving here for a reason. They're not moving here because the garbage is picked up regularly. They're not moving here because we have a nice senior center. They're moving here for the schools. And this budget continues to make sure that our students get what they need, when they need it, at a reasonable price. I'm voting yes on this budget, 100%, and I have no qualms whatsoever about it.
Mike.
All right, I'm going to try and be brief. I concur with everything that Gene said, so I don't want to repeat most of what Gene says. I support the one-to-one technology for 9th and 10th grade. You have to remember a couple of things. First of all, we're the ones with the public telling us, the people of our community telling us, why don't we have a one-to-one initiative? Because other districts had a one-to-one initiative before us. So one of the reasons we hired Mr. Norcia was his view on a one-to-one initiative and his plan to get it started. He recommends 9th and 10th grade. I thought we were going a little slow to get it up to the point that we needed to get it. So I actually agree with that. We are on the forefront. You know, no matter what we do, it seems like members of the public, and they have the right to do it, are going to say, well, why don't you do more? We are on the forefront in this county of mental health in our schools. There are many, many school districts that have nothing involving mental health, and that is the #1 problem we have in this state, probably in the country, as far as school is concerned. We are on the forefront. My district has nothing. The district I work in. Please don't quote that.
Deleted that part of the tape.
There's stuff, you know, upgrades to elementary school kitchens. We know that there's an issue with elementary school kitchens and elementary school lunches. People have told us loud and clear we need to fix it. This budget starts to fix that, okay? There's certain programs that the public has come to us and said, you know, I think you could do better. I'm not going to say we were deficient, but I think you could do better. And guess what? This budget does that. We do better at it. So are there going to be some stuff that I might not agree with, some certain line items that I don't agree with? Of course there is. Do I care about the taxpayers? I pay the taxes. I pay taxes in this town just like anyone else, okay? This town offers a lot for a lot of people. People move here for many reasons, but the number one reason people have moved here lately has been the school, has always been the schools. First it was our special ed program, now I think it's all our programs. And I have to tell you, I know this for a fact, many districts in Bergen County they're closing things. My district that I work in and used to have 150 kids per class coming through. Now they have 120. All of a sudden, it's down to 120 roughly kids per class, and it's that way all the way down to kindergarten. So it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future, and it's a very good town that I work in. So Fairlawn, actually, the fact that we're going up by this many students, something has to be. We have to be doing something right, because they are, like Gene said, moving in here for the schools and all the other amenities that Fairlawn has to offer. And you know what? No matter what, everything in town revolves around the school. And as far as 63 cents on the dollar for school, that's the way New Jersey taxes work. And it's a very normal amount. Actually, I've seen it 66, 67 cents on the dollar being school taxes for a town. That, I mean, right, wrong, and different, that's very much an average. There's not any school district that's not paying 63 cents on the dollar in school taxes. So when I hear that just thrown around, it's not really, I mean thrown around, social media thrown around. It's reality. It's not because we're not trying to watch the dollars. And I think I support the budget. And you know, is there one or two things that I would rather not see? And the last thing I want to say is, we sat here 2 weeks ago, and we asked questions about the budget, and we asked them to put in certain things in the budget. So everything that was added, all the extras that were added on page, what we know about
Page 4.
Yeah, page 4. It was this board as a whole, all 9 of us, that asked them to add.
Correct. Individually, they were asked.
We pretty much.
All right, well, let's
All right.
finish up.
So I support the budget.
Cindy.
I also support this budget. New Jersey is only one of 8 states in the entire country that uses property taxes to fund the schools. We don't have any control over that, unfortunately, and maybe the state should find out what the rest of the country is doing to take some of the burden off the taxpayer. I also pay the taxes. I heard what Mary said about 3/4 of a pizza. And some people might think that that's trivializing it, and I don't see it that way. I see it as a norm. I don't disagree that this board has been very willing to hear what members of the public have been saying, and trying our hardest to hear them and to try to implement some of their ideas within the constraints of what we're able to do. There's a lot of this budget that is fixed. So when we cut, we're cutting the extras that makes Fairlawn the place where people want to move in. It is the extra things. And without repeating what a lot of people, I agree with what Gene said, I agree with what Mike said, Mary, and I also support the budget.
Thank you. Wilkin.
I also support the budget with reservations. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can support the budget, but we can also demand that we do things differently. Okay? Just because you want fiscal responsibility, that doesn't mean you don't support the budget. So I want to make that clear. All right? Now, if we believe that 63 cents of every dollar that a taxpayer pays is not, it's average, that's what other municipalities pay, then why not 75 cents? Then why not 80 cents? Why not 71 cents? If we have that mentality, our taxes are going to go up every year, 200, 300. We have to try to do a lot. We must do a lot, but we have to find efficient ways and effective ways to utilize the money. And I'm not saying we're not doing that, but we need to be more mindful about it, because if we have the same train of thought as I perceive here from few members, people are going to be having to choose between paying for the prescription drugs or paying for the taxes. And I am for the taxpayer, all right? So 63 cents of every dollar, it's a lot of money. I do agree that having a presentation with the taxes, I know it's past practice, but having a presentation with the average tax increase monthly, I believe that's deceiving. And I mean that respectfully. I'm not saying that you are deceiving the public, okay? That's a past practice. It should be annually, all right? And it may be a quarter of a pizza, but also maybe a co-payment for prescription drugs. There's a lot of residents in Fair Lawn who are paying more in prescription drugs than on mortgage. So if we have a mentality of it's not that much money, then why not increase even more? And almost 80%, around 80% of our budget, it's personnel and health costs. So we have to be willing to look at the whole budget. Everything has to be looked at, everything, without compromising the excellence in the education of our children. I have a child in the school system. I will never nickel and dime no one's child's education in this town. But we have to keep the money in the classroom, and we have to look at everything else, because the taxpayers do not have an open wallet with unlimited funds. So I ask everybody here to please put your right hand on your heart, and if you were thinking that it's not that much money, $200, $300 in the past, for the year that is coming up, let's work together as a team so we don't have to have very, very unrealistic expectation the day that we are voting for the budget, and we work our way up all the way to next year. So when we are in this position, we can look at the taxpayer and say, you don't have to pay almost $200 tax increase, which is what I'm hoping for next year. And I do support the budget. But we can't, if we keep doing something the same way, we're going to keep getting the same results.
You done? Are you done?
Cost neutral.
No,
That's it. I'm done.
No, I just wanted to, so I don't.
I'm done, sorry.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure you're not. Elise, and then I'm going to speak, and that's it.
Okay, I just wanted to say that, I guess it's last year or when we were having all those meetings at the high school in the cafeteria, there were people, residents that stood up at the microphones and actually said, you should do this even though it's going to raise the budget, I'm willing to pay more taxes. So, yes, there are people that are at the point where, it's, maybe, a hardship in some regards, but I just wanted to mention that there are many people out there that want us to do more. Okay, we're not doing enough, and they're willing to pay more. From listening to this discussion, and I support the budget, and I love the job that you did, and I love that you took into consideration the things that we discussed at the small meetings and at the large meeting, and changed some things. But I think maybe now's the time for however we would do it, but to send a message to Trenton after this season ends, to start sending messages to other boards that it's time for them to, send the new governor, some messages saying it's time to look at how schools are funded totally. So maybe that those other 42 states have ideas that we can use, and maybe, we can facilitate change on that, sort of state level, as opposed to, we're given healthcare costs, public service went up, it's things that we can't control, and the few things that we can control, I think we do a very good job of controlling them. So, thank you again, and Ron, you're up.
I just want to say thank you for everybody's comments, and when I'm done, I'm going to open up the public comments before we call for the vote. I just want to bring up a few points. Well, I have a question. The centralized supply, which I like, and I agree with Mark, I want to see a savings, but that 95,000 as software is a big chunk of that, and then there's be somebody monitoring, so that's not like a fixed cost every year. Am I correct or am I wrong?
It's not a fixed cost every year.
All right, thank you. As far as the buses go, as we stated at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, once you hit 15 years with a school bus, any type of school bus, 54 passenger, any type of school bus, it has to come offline, okay? Whether it's got 10 miles on it or 110,000 miles on it, all right? We have 8 buses coming off the line in the next 2 years, okay? So if we got to purchase 8 buses in 2 years, it's going to be well over $1 million that we got to do. So what we try to do is maybe take some out of service, and Mark, we could look into what you brought up about there's some buses sitting there that might be for a reason, but I can tell you the majority of our buses are used pretty much all the time. So that's something with the bus. This year's tax increase, you have a 2% cap that you're on. I've been on the board, this is my 8th year. And by the way, when I got on the board the very first year, there was 4,200 students in this district. There's now over 5,300. So in almost 12 years, because I was off the board for a couple of years, we've gone up almost 1,000. So there's reasons why. But this year our budget increase is 1.94%, which again is under the 2% cap. Since the 2% cap came in, this district's only been over that cap, I think, twice. Okay, and we've used bank cap, which you're allowed to do. So we're very fiscal responsible. And if you look at a lot of districts around the county, and I'll just stay in Bergen County, every day when I read the paper, who's 20 million in debt, who's this, who's that, and they're shambles. Okay, we've done a job. Number 3, we have a fixed cost of state health benefit plans. We figure if you budget 2% and it goes up 8%, you got to find the other 6%. Okay, even though the teachers are paying their percentage, the employees are paying their percentage because of all the employees. All right, so there are certain fixed costs with special ed, there's certain fixed costs with the teachers, their contracts, and with their health benefits. So those are fixed costs. So I really want to commend. I mean, I've been through this process for a while, and they always, I'll tell you what, it's a job I would not want for all the money that we paid these women. Okay, I'm being honest. And I know Nick's involved in the central office, is all involved, and all the supervisors. And I say that with sincerity, because actually I did text Ms. Bartley the other night, a little late, I won't say what time, and she was still working, okay, so it was late. But the last thing is that I want to bring up, and this, Emily, I don't know your numbers, we did talk the other night when I got off. In 16-17, it was $12.34 increase, so it was $148.08. 17-18 was $20.40, which is $2.44. 18-19 was $2.45, and then this one is $1.91. So I'm going to take the last 3 years, it's $681.60. And I agree that we don't want to do this to the taxpayers. As Elise said, I remember we had the soft borders meetings and the referendum meetings where people were saying, I don't care, let's build a new school. Brand new school is $55 million, and then you got to stamp it. And I understand what you're saying about people on prescriptions or anything else, but you know what? I feel for every person in this district, every person in this community. But sometimes people have to look at their own thing. I can tell you right now, I don't like what I pay for car insurance, okay? I pay a lot, right? So it's my job to go find out to pay a little less to get the same coverage and the same thing. So I believe that. I hear people in the district, and as Elise said, I hear people saying, I can tell you right now, the one-to-one, I can't tell you how many people said, how you people are not at one-to-one. It blows our minds. And this is from educators and just people. So I think we can buckle down, we can look at, and I think the administration does a good job of streamlining. I'm not going to waste any more time. I know where we've saved money over the last couple of years on big items. And like I said, hopefully our growth is going to slow down and everything is going to get steady, but listen, we need to take care of the children, and we need to give them a great environment, a safe environment, and the best educational opportunity that we could possibly give them. And unfortunately, like you said, Cindy said at least, this state pays a lot in property taxes. It's one of the worst, we all know that, okay? Okay, and so, the bottom line is, I'm just saying, we can go to the legislators, and our legislative chairperson sent me an email today, what she can, and I didn't have a chance to respond back to you today, but we will, because I will talk and go with you. It is what it is. Unfortunately, like I said, but I will tell you this, you go to some of the states that, and I'm not saying they should, the taxes should flood it, but you go to some of the other states, school systems aren't that good. They're really not that good. People save a ton on taxes, but they gotta send all their kids to private schools because the school systems aren't that good. So, with that, I'm done, and thank you for listening to me, and I will now open up the floor to anybody that makes a couple of comments, and then we're gonna call for a vote. Just state your name, sign it.
David Cracker, 310 Allison Street. I think we should have down the block from Miss Barbarella.
Obviously knowing your walks. You get a stamp. Gets my dog excited all the time. Well, hi. Yeah.
My question, I have two questions. One, so we got 700 and something back from the state, but the minimum budget went from $14.49 per household to $13.59 per household, which is only a reduction of 90 cents. Now, the state aid, I guess, was probably a little bit over $2. Was it about $300,000 per dollar? Is that how that works out?
Yeah. Are you gonna direct?
Well, no, I'm asking about that money.
You directed it to me, and then I'm gonna say.
I didn't address you.
No, you directed it to me, I got it. I was waiting for you to finish.
So the question,
Would you answer that question for him?
Can you talk about what was put back in that brought that number up?
I think actually what we did, what we wanted to just show, only the additional items. So at the March 4th meeting, we had broken it down by new staff.
I'm just comparing minimum budget to minimum budget. You got 14.49 and then 13.59.
So last time our recommended minimum budget was $17.44. So.
I'm looking at 14.49.
Yeah, but the new staff and the increase in technology, we just wanted to break that down. So if you look at the March 4th one, our minimum budget was actually $17.44.
Okay.
Now we're at $13.59.
Okay,
So based on what we had presented the last time of, this is our minimum budget, we know we need the new staff, we know we're doing the one-to-one technology. That is now
additional one-to-one is in that minimum budget.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So all we wanted to show to break down was just what was discussed last time were those additional items. So that's why you'll see 1, 2, 3, and 4, which was what was added
Okay.
last time.
And the only other thing I want to say, and I said it last time, for things like the centralized supply initiative, where they're not mission critical to improving students, I would love to see. And I agree with Wilkie on this one, to see it to be a zero-sum thing, where if you're going to say that $95,000 is going to save you money, then you put your money where your mouth is and take $95,000 out of whether that's a supply budget or wherever that's supposed to be saving you money in year one, and say, okay, that's going to save us money. Because I think, yeah, it's only 31 cents, yeah, it's only $3.72, but I think that's all those $3.72 does add up. And I think that should be a zero-sum game where.
And also, too, we can see the savings in it that might not need to be as detailed, I guess.
Well, yeah, then it wouldn't show up in the budget. You
That's
wouldn't know
what
it
I'm
was
saying.
there.
So again, it's something that right now that's what we're looking at, but like the same thing with anything, security, something, and then hopefully it gets less. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
You're gonna vote on everything.
Oh, you want to vote on everything? All right, so at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Bartley to give us a referendum update. We have bid openings today.
We had 2 bid openings today. The bids came in over budget again. They were less base bid than last time, so you will see a resolution on here rejecting those bids, which allows us to now go into the negotiation process with the contractors.
Anybody have any questions? Board? Mark?
What exactly does that mean going into negotiations with contractors? How's it different than just having the bid?
So, yeah, we talked about it a little bit last time, that it's basically deducts, it's value engineering items that we'll meet with the contractors and have them give us different proposals.
It's more flexible than a bid. At this point now, we can enter into open negotiations with everyone. We're going to structure it similar to a bid in the sense that we're going to ask them for another number, and then we're going to have a list of deduct items, and they'll give us numbers for that. And then we'll determine, based on that, whether or not we can come up with an acceptable number based on the lowest base proposal, plus a certain number of deducts if we decide to do them, because that's probably the only way to get that to our budget number. So you don't have to go through a whole bidding process over and over. It just gives you more of an opportunity. It's more flexible. You have an opportunity to have everybody submit their numbers, and then you have the right to negotiate with them further.
We give them the number?
No, they give us their numbers. We give them a list. We say, give us your best number for the base, which presumably will be similar to what we've got on the bids. But then there will be a list of items that we can deduct for different pieces of the project. Okay, tell us how much if we take out this, or if we substitute this. And it's fairly involved. I mean, there's a lot of permutations to it. But that way that we can pick and choose, essentially, and decide what's best for us. And then ultimately, we do have a right to continue to go back and continue to negotiate with them until we come up with a number that is satisfactory.
And if we're successful with negotiations, when do we see this finalized? And is it going to put us back a few months or so on our deadline?
So tomorrow, we're going to be sending letters out to all the contractors, letting them know that we rejected the bids tonight. When you take formal action, we'll be sending to them this negotiation and proposal form with a list of, I think, over 29 value-added deducts for them to put together. They have to send me a letter of intent that they plan on providing a proposal by, I think we decided on March 20th. And then we'll meet with them on the 26th to do proposals. I'm going to ask everybody, I think I did mention this at the last time in closed session, to provide with the flexibility of your time that first week in April to have a special action meeting so that we can, when we come to an agreement with the contractor on a number that fits within our budget, we can have that special action meeting to appoint the budget. We were hoping to do maybe March 28th meeting, but I think it's not enough time because of how complicated this process is. We have 2 separate projects, 2 separate budget numbers, and we have over 30 items that we're going to be looking at in detail. So it's going to take us some time to go through all of that. So the goal is April 1st, and we still feel very confident because of our planning and how early we started this process that we're going to be able to meet our deadlines. We submitted with this negotiated proposal an updated milestone schedule, so all the contractors are aware of what it is. But it's critical for us to, that first week in April, award a contract so that we can have them start ordering steel and other, big ticket items.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, Mark, it's advantageous to the board because now you're in a one-on-one. So most of the stuff they might change material, they might change different things. You already have your base bid. So also what it does is it actually keeps everybody in check because now they know they're still in the running. So they're all going to tighten their pencils a little bit more. The reason I know this is because I used to bid schoolwork. So, and I've went through this process up in Rivervale. It just happens, again, when you get a bid package, you go by the bid. Those are the specs you have to bid by. I guarantee you, as they were all doing it, we're probably saying, well, I really don't need that. We could really say this, but they can't change it, so it helps. So, okay. Did you have your hand up, Wilton, or did you not have your hand up?
She answered most of what I was going to ask, but is there any potential that that this expansion could be done under budget and on time? Under budget and on time, as scheduled. On the budget.
The goal is to get the number as low as possible. Yeah.
The goal is always for us to be done on time. Any project.
There's timelines put in the contracts that they have to adhere to, otherwise they get penalized. So it's, the only thing is there's things in there, of course, like catastrophic and, weather. I mean, like in the winter, if you got 22 days of snow, they can't work, then it's a subject to, so. Mike had his hand in on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you answered most of it, that the stuff that they're going, just to make sure that everybody understands, the stuff that they're gonna take off of the, deduct from the bid is stuff that doesn't really affect the overall plan, that the plan is still the same plan, same amount of classrooms, same amount of stuff, it's just material and stuff like that.
Yes, a lot of different things, yes.
Correct.
Correct, that is correct. Cindy?
Just for a question, the past two referendums that we have had, we've been on time and under budget?
Correct. Correct. Any comments from the public? Okay. All right, so seeing that, we're going to go to the following action items. What?
I'm just going to add into the minutes that one line. for
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
Do you have a motion for? Paul, I have to add a line into the minutes on FGA.
Does everybody have it?
But we didn't hand it out yet.
Hand it out to everybody, please.
Further resolve.
Yeah.
The last
So you're doing this at one?
Yeah, they're gonna want to see that. They can just move it that way, because they can move it, it has to be moved.
No, so should I read it now
Yeah.
before they do
Read it
it?
before they move it.
Okay.
Because they changed some,
Okay.
That with the addition.
should I pass
I
these
read
out?
it or do
Did you guys get it?
Ron,
Should I pass it out there, or did they get it?
Yeah,
Did you guys get this?
I'll read it. I gotta skip my copy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, on F8A, on the bottom, we all got a copy of it, we had to add that line. Be it further resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education approves the budgeted withdrawal of $4,453,256 from the capital reserve account to support capital projects. Okay, so that goes to F8A. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What's this budget for? Was this in the budget?
That's reflected in the budget numbers.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, what the state is doing now is that it's always been that you had to have it in your budget numbers. They want to see it now as a specific part of your resolution. They want the language in there. So it's already in there, it's already built in, but they want to see it in the resolution.
Okay. All right, so.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
How much remains in the capital reserve when we take out the $4.5 million? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Depending on how we end this year, it would leave us with $2 million. Around there.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Okay, all right, so.
I have another question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, $2 million for the capital budget. What about for the capital reserve? What about the other reserve budget
What other reserve budget?
besides the surplus?
Fund
Appropriate free
balance,
balance.
Yeah, this-
fund balance, we always have around $3 million in fund balance.
It's always be
We
surplus.
appropriate 1.5 towards the next year's tax levy to reduce our budget. So we'll have, again, about 1.5 in our fund balance, which is our undesignated surplus.
And that's our rainy day fund, right? In a sense, in layman's terms.
Sort of.
The
Sort of.
fund balance,
Sort of,
yeah,
It's if I may.
we're not legally allowed to have more than 2% of what our final expenditures are into our fund balance.
So at some
So
point
we're
we have to-
very restricted on how much we're even allowed to have in that fund balance. So where we are in terms of a rainy day fund is where we're legally allowed, and it's a respectable number.
Yeah. This, And that's very different than the borough, right? The boroughs could be a lot
Municipality
higher.
has much different
And
rules.
the boroughs is a lot higher.
Yeah, they have a lot
Much
of different rules.
than us,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go to the following action items. F1, no items, F2, no items, F3, no items, 4, 5, 6, and 7, no items. F8, approval of state and county, John, approval of state and county submission requirements. Approval to submit the 2019-2020 budget to county office and advertise budget to the public. B, is that all the same thing?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, no, that's all right, so,
So I'm getting mixed up,
that's all
sorry.
right, C.
And then F9 is.
Yeah. F9, approval of contracts, consortiums, and cooperatives for Memorial Middle School addition and alteration bid. And B, Thomas Jefferson Middle School addition and alteration bid. F11, transportation of seniors, that the board provides 2 buses to transport the seniors. And that's it. Can I have a motion from F1 to F11?
So moved. Second.
Is that Jean, who's second?
Mike, or Lee, Sabina, and
Any more questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Like,
Yes.
I
Questions?
just wanted to comment on 11, I can't wait to ride that bus.
Couple of years.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Aaron
Yes.
and I are riding it.
Dr. Cohen?
I volunteer to drive it.
Yes, but no on F8A.
Mrs. Franco?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes, except for F8A, no.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes. Okay,
No, so then we have,
yeah. Okay, so, can we have, I want to open up to public comments for any new business you wanted to talk about? Anybody have any new business? Board comments on any new business? Emily?
Just like to ask, we have a work session a week from tonight, correct?
Correct.
So I'd just like to request of the administration that we receive an agenda for the work session with ample time in advance.
No problem. Anybody else?
I have a question. Are we going to address the, as a board, during the workshop, the scores?
Not right now.
During the work session?
Yeah, during the work session.
No, it's not on the agenda at the moment. The administration's working on that. They'll get back to us when they're ready to, after doing some work on it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah?
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Everybody can see the list of upcoming meetings. Next Thursday, we have a work session at 7:30 here. Following Thursday, monthly board meeting. And then the work session and monthly board meetings are in April. With that, I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.